November 2024 Tableau Public TUG. We have a great lineup for you today, so let's get started. You've all seen their Viz of the Days. We're here to have them answer the questions, why did you do that? How did you do that? And the most important question of all, how did you make it look so good? Today's TUG hosts are Priyanka Debal, Parithi Lodha, and myself, Eric Howard. We're all members of the Tableau Ambassadors class of 2024. Parithi, tell everyone about yourself and what you're currently working on for the Tableau Public Data Fam.
Cool. Hello, everyone. Parithi Lodha here. As Eric said, I am a Tableau Public Ambassador. And currently, with all the Iron Viz submissions coming through, I have volunteered to be one of the community judge. So that is what I am doing. I had to mute my socials for almost a month and a half so that I did not accidentally come across any of the Iron Viz submissions. So that is a new exciting stuff that I'm trying out with Tableau. But in the recent days, I went to a Tableau Pulse workshop, and it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing. So if any of you have used Tableau Pulse, are thinking about using Tableau Pulse, come connect with me, and we can have a talk about it.
Cool.
That's it for me.
All right, Priyanka, tell everyone about yourself and why you love the Tableau Data Fam.
Hi everyone, my name is Priyanka. I am also a Tableau Public Ambassador. And just like Preeti, I volunteered to do the judging this time. So it's pretty hard to not see the socials. And well, why I love Tableau Data Fam? That's kind of a tricky question, you know. It's what's not to love. There's so much welcoming environment. Even a person like me who's an introvert has learned to make friends. So that's a big reason, you know. When an introvert says they want to talk to people, that's a big thing. So yeah, that's basically why I like to connect.
Well,
and much to watch out for.
All right, our guests today are coming to you live from Australia, where it's already tomorrow. Kimberly Scott is in Melbourne. She's a 17-time Viz of the Day winner, a 2-time Tableau Visionary, a 4-time Tableau Public Ambassador, and was one of the 2022 Iron Viz finalists. Heather Cox is coming to us from Adelaide, Australia. She's a 3-time Viz of the Day winner, a 2024 Tableau Public Ambassador, and a Tableau Public featured author. Sam Batchelor, who's usually in Brisbane, is on holiday, and she's joining us today. She's a 1-time Viz of the Day winner, a 2024 Tableau Social Ambassador, and an accredited Tableau trainer. Thank you all for joining us today. That was a real tongue twister with all those winnings and certifications.
You did very well.
So here's the rough timeline for today. We'll start off with a conversation with Sam. In between Kimberly and Heather, we'll have a quick swag drawing. So let's get started. Sam Batchelor is a data visualization lead and an accredited Tableau trainer. She has presented at Tableau Conference. With her diverse experience across industries like energy, telecommunications, construction, and dairy, she brings a wealth of knowledge in data analytics. Sam's dedication to the community makes her a great social leader in the Data Fam. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm sorry that we're all in different time zones, so but we got here.
Well, before I get rid of this slide, I want to ask you, what's the story behind this Data Hero card? It's very cool.
Oh my gosh. It's so cool, isn't it? The Enough Respect, yeah, that was a series that Sharif did on the socials. So he's usually highlighting Salesforce community members, but he messaged me earlier on this year and said, I'd love to highlight you in the Data Heroes series. And I think there's probably maybe 5 to 10 or something people in the data fam who have been highlighted. And I think initially when he messaged me, I sort of said, have you got the right person? Because I really didn't.
I felt you said when I asked you to do this too.
I know, I felt very humbled and quite confused. Yeah. But he came back to me. He said, no, I know who you are. I've done my research. I would love to highlight your journey. And so, of course I said yes. I mean, it's the coolest thing ever. And I have to get it printed out because I'm sure when I'm 80, I will look back on it as a career highlight. That was just a real honor to be approached and to be highlighted in that series. And then he asked me, like, who's your favorite Marvel hero and that kind of thing. So I got to have a little bit of input in there as well.
How did you get to be a social ambassador, and what do they do?
Great question. Well, I guess all of the ambassadors are about connecting and amplifying the community. And so the idea of a social ambassador is somebody who connects and amplifies both like in the social media, so virtually, but also in person as well. So I love going over to the Tableau conference. I've been there, I think 4 times. Coming up will be my 5th time. I love, being really engaged in the data fam communities on both X and LinkedIn. It's actually where I go to learn most of what's happening and what's new. So it's a great way to stay engaged both from yourself, but also to share tips. And I guess then from a social ambassador's perspective, I am someone who wants to make the whole data fam experience inclusive, friendly, approachable, accessible, supportive. So luckily, my 2nd year as a social ambassador, I am, hopefully helping to lift the rest of the community up. So it's a real honor to be.
You're doing a great job. Yeah.
Thank you.
So how and when did you start using Tableau?
Oh, well, I learned about Tableau. I was actually at a Stephen Few dashboarding session, and that was back in, I'm going to say 2012. And he started talking about Tableau. And I thought, well, this sounds good. And I was working in a big company in New Zealand at that stage. And so I sort of asked around and said, who's using Tableau? Like, I was all in Microsoft Excel and Access. That was my jam. And then, so I found out who was using Tableau and I wrangled the license from them. And then from there, I kind of started to teach myself and then managed to get a job or a role in that company using Tableau. And so I got the role around 2014 and I've stayed really using Tableau ever since. So I've been working with Tableau for about 10 years now, which is pretty amazing.
I think the loathing of Access is why I love Tableau so much.
The days.
Man, Tableau is so much better.
Yeah, I still love Excel, but I know it's gone past me now. I don't know how to do anything in it. So yeah.
Who will never leave Excel? I mean, you just got to.
Yeah, I love Excel. It's my jam.
So do you have a favorite Tableau project that you've worked on? And can you show us?
Yeah, I can. So probably my favorite Tableau, let me share my screen. Probably my favorite Tableau project would be this one actually. So I got Viz of the Day in 2021 for my Hamilton appreciation piece, I guess it is. So it was data that really talked about the density of words in Hamilton. So Hamilton has 20,000 words and is, performed over 2.5 hours. And then comparing with the likes of, say, Phantom of the Opera. So if you said that many words at the pace of Phantom of the Opera, it would take 5 hours. So it really spoke to me both. I love the data, but I love Hamilton. Anyone who knows me knows I love Hamilton. And I really, appreciated the way that this showed the highlights. And then I just went into, having a look at how many words does Alexander Hamilton actually have to speak every show. And then Guns and Ships was actually the fastest song on Broadway. So Guinness Book of World Records, they rap at 9 words per second during Guns and Ships. So that was, yeah, pretty amazing. I'll just stop sharing there.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So as a Tableau trainer, what is your favorite Tableau training resource?
Well, I think for me, when I was doing the Tableau training, at the end, I would give people like a one-pager, and they would list of resources like, Andy Kriebel, Mark Reed. If I was doing it now, it would be Tableau Tim. I'd be SQL Bell or Donabelle Santos. These people who share their blogs. They both give you such a specific use case for something, but also take a step back and sort of say, hey, by the way, it's not just about these specific tips, but here's how to approach it, the whole ecology, which is good. But when I was training, and I haven't trained for a few years now, but I used to train all over Australia. And quite a few times I turned up to train in Melbourne, and I would turn up to and this is not virtually, this is in person. And the books, they used to train from books, and they wouldn't have turned up. So I would have to go into the storeroom and the training and try and find like an old version of the Tableau desktop, Tableau fundamentals or advanced, and try and get them through while they quickly couriered it to me for the afternoon. So I'd say my number one training resource is the manuals. and then we'd give people a one-pager after that.
All right. Well, as a social ambassador, last question, what is your platform of choice and why?
I used to be very heavily on X, and probably at the moment I'm less so. I see a lot of maybe the data frame heading to Blue Sky, so I'm interested. I might check that out and see what's happening there. So I think I'm primarily on LinkedIn at the moment. It is much more of a professional rather than sort of personal, and it's less about personal connections. You have to be a lot more cognizant of what you're posting. But I think for tips and learning and connecting, then LinkedIn is my primary at the moment.
All right. Well, let's see if we can get Blue Sky to replace X for the data fam.
Are you on Blue Sky, Eric?
Not yet, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Good things about it. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll turn it over to Preeti and Kimberly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Kimberly. Hey. Okay. A couple of quick housekeeping stuff. I'm going to introduce Kimberly. Kimberly is going to do her awesome presentation. If you have any questions for Kimberly, please feel free to use the Q&A button or post your questions in the chat, and we will take the questions towards the end. Okay. Hello, everyone. So I have the opportunity to host Kimberly's segment. Kimberly and I at this Tableau conference did a segment on Data Makeover, a guide to creating award-winning visits. Why am I bringing it up is that Kimberly is in Australia and I live in Boston, and we met for the first time at the conference. But reading through the feedback that we got, somebody said that Kimberly and my chemistry was so good that they paid us to listen, us to read a dictionary. So just so you all know, we can kill it sometimes when we are in our fun mode. Right, Kimberly?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you all know, Kimberly is a 2-time Tableau visionary, 4-time Tableau Public Ambassador. She also co-leads the Melbourne Tableau user group and data and diversity in data community project. Kimberly has 17 Viz of the days, and she's not stopping. She's just going to continue on that, and I am amazed by it. She has been a global Iron Viz finalist for 2022, placing 2nd. Kimberly, as I said, is based in Melbourne, Australia, and uses Tableau and data visualization to highlight topics that she is passionate about, such as gender equality, women's health, diversity, and refugees. Outside data viz and work, Kimberly has 2 young daughters who drive her passion for making the world a better, a more equal place for women, girls, and the underrepresented. Thank you, Kimli, and welcome. Excited for your segment.
Thank you so much, Preeti. Thank you for that awesome introduction. I don't think I've ever had an introduction that good. And thank you everyone for being here today to listen to me talk about my visualization. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so the visualization that I'm going to talk about today is my visualization that got Viz of the Day a couple of years ago called the Matilda Effect. And I know Preeti did such a great introduction about me and about some of the work that I've been doing within the Tableau community. But I just wanted to share some kind of fun tidbits about myself, things that you probably won't find on my resume and that you might not know about me. Well, actually, yeah. Preeti did share that I've got two young daughters. I've got a 10-year-old. She's going on 16. And I also have a 5-year-old who is also going on 16. So you can imagine, you know, what our house is like with two young girls. I am a space nerd. So if you've had a look at my Tableau Public profile, you'll probably notice that there are quite a few space-related vizzes on there. That's because I'm just so fascinated with space and everything about it. And, you know, when I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. I want to go up there and, you know, just see what's out there. Probably won't happen, but, you know, a girl can dream. I'm currently on a 416-day learning streak on Duolingo. It's something that I've been doing for over a year, and I really enjoy it. One of when I was younger, one of the things that I really wanted to be able to do was to speak multiple languages. So I speak 2 languages, learning a 3rd one, and probably, you know, we'll continue to do that as well. And this particular image here is an image of me showcasing my visualization that was featured in the Tableau Public Viz Gallery at Tableau Conference earlier this year. And one of the reasons why I'm so proud with this visualization is that it's a visualization that talks about breast milk. And, you know, I thought it was so great that Tableau chose to feature a visualization about breast milk and, you know, all the components of breast milk and, you know, the kind of things around it. And I just thought it was so great for them to showcase a visualization like that. You know, my aim in the world is to try to make a world a better place, one visualization at a time. So, you know, sharing topics like that may be a bit unconventional things that you may not even kind of think about. So that's you know, that's my aim. But moving on to my Viz of the Day, the Matilda Effect. As I think Preeti touched on in my introduction, I do have a passion for gender equality and sharing women's achievements and their stories. In fact, I have a blog where I interview women in data visualization in an effort to promote women's voices within this industry. And as a tradition, I've kind of set the goal within myself to release a visualization each year in honor of Women's History Month, so a visualization to showcase and honor women. And I've been doing that for about the past 3 years now. I do produce many visualizations throughout the year showcasing women, but I do like to take that extra step each March to make sure that I have a visualization to publish for Women's History Month. So just to give you an idea of some of the visualizations that I've created for Women's History Month. So these are a collection of some of the other visualizations I've created. I started off with looking at women's suffrage and plotted, you know, when women won the right to vote in various countries throughout the world. I did a visualization on the Mums Who Viz community. So that's kind of a little sub-community within the Tableau community. Just, you know, mothers who work within data and working within data visualization, a place to kind of support each other and just be there for each other. One of the most recent ones was On Top of the World, which looked at women who have climbed Mount Everest. And you can see here in the timeline the increase of women who have been able to kind of to get that feat of climbing the tallest mountain in the world. And the most recent one was Monumental Women, which looked at the gap in statues in Melbourne, statues that depict men versus women, and how that's heavily skewed towards men. And both the Mums of Viz visualization and Monumental Women both received Viz of the Day as well. But going back to the Matilda Effect, so I created this visualization back in 2022 for Women's History Month. And I had read an article some time ago about women being ignored in the science field and them not getting the recognition that they deserve within their lifetime. And it turned out that this was actually something that was quantifiable and something that was true, and it was called the Matilda Effect. So when I was thinking about what to visualize for Women's History Month that year, I thought this would be a great topic. It's not a topic that, you know, is widely known. I hadn't known about it until I kind of stumbled across this article, and I thought it was a really good way to kind of showcase women as well. So women and their achievements have often been ignored, particularly in science, and we see evidence of the Matilda Effect throughout history. So if you haven't heard of the Matilda Effect yourself, it's a term that describes the systemic under-recognition of women's contributions in science and in technology, and it refers to the practice of giving credit to men for women's work or downplaying their achievements. So I wanted to share some of these women's stories and let people kind of know about them and learn about them. So I guess my inspiration for this visualization comes from wanting to recognize all of the amazing women out there, especially those quiet achievers who may not always, you know, get the recognition they deserve. Okay, so moving on to data. When I decided that I wanted to create a visualization about the Matilda Effect, I had to go searching for the data. I knew that I wanted to showcase women, but I also knew that I needed kind of more data to add context to tell my story, or rather kind of back up my claim that, you know, that this effect was actually real and in place. Sometimes when I'm producing a visualization, I may get inspired by a data set that I've come across that I thought might be interesting, that I wanted to visualize. But this was kind of the reverse in this case. For this particular visualization, I had this topic in mind, but I didn't have any data. So I had to go looking for the data. And now I must add that I do a lot of research when I'm putting together a visualization like this. And this visualization was no exception. So I went through lots of kind of articles and journals and, you know, trying to find that data set that can help tell my story. And I found that one of the biggest and most easily quantifiable evidence for the Matilda Effect is the Nobel Prize. So that's kind of where I started my search for data. So I went to the Nobel Prize website and started to look for data, and then I stumbled across their developer section, which is like all the way at the bottom. So if we click on, they do have an API which you can use to get data about, you know, the Nobel Prize winners and about the Nobel Prize itself. And I was lucky because all I had to do was click on this link and I am presented with a lot of stuff. So it kind of looks a bit jumbly at the moment, but if we click on this print pretty, we can kind of see that it is actually a data set. And what's more, it's got gender information here. So we're able to kind of see information about each particular Nobel Prize winner and the gender. So this is exactly what I needed for this data set. And the best part is I didn't need to do any data cleaning or anything. So this data can be copied and pasted into like a notepad and then saved as a JSON file, which can then be connected straight to Tableau to start analyzing the data. So that's where I kind of started with my data set. And when I first went into this, I knew that there was a gender gap in Nobel Prize winners, and I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I kind of started looking at the data. When this visualization was first published around 2 years ago, at the time, there had been 943 individuals who had received a Nobel Prize. But as we can see here, only 58% of those were awarded to women. And when we break it down by category, we can see, you know, the stark difference in prize winners by category. So in particular, the economic sciences, where we've only had 2 women who had won the prize. And also in physics, I think that's only four women there. And that's, you know, I thought to myself, that's actually pretty bad. When we look at these particular disciplines, considering we know that there have been some remarkable scientists whom without, we wouldn't have had some of these major discoveries and advances. And for this particular data, I decided to use a packed bubble chart. So we can see the magnitude of the gap between the 2 genders looking at the data this way. And I thought this was a really dramatic way to show that gap. So we can see the field purple circles. They're the circles that represent women. And you can see how sparse those purple circles are in amongst all of those clear circles, in amongst all of the men. And yes, I know that it's not necessarily best practice to use a chart like this, but I thought it fit really well within the aesthetics of the visualization. And it was a really good visualization to show the story that I wanted to tell. And I really liked how it kind of fit in with the rest of the visualization and fit in with the layout and the spot that I had reserved for it. So that's the Nobel Prize. And at this point, I thought to myself, I need a bit more data to show the Matilda effect in effect. And through my research, I found this paper that showed gender inequality in scientific areas and disciplines. So it's this section here. And what's really interesting to me is that we can clearly see how this kind of Matilda effect manifests its way in research and publications. So if we look, for example, at physics, which is what has been selected here, we can see the average career length of women is lower than men. So it's about 10.83 years for women and 12.19 years for men. But if we look at the average number of papers per year, we can actually see that women are producing or publishing on average more papers than men. But because the length of their career is much shorter than men, at the end of the day or at the end of their career, they're actually publishing less papers. So you can kind of see in this way that because a women's career length are shorter, they're actually only able to publish, you know, a less amount of papers than men. And just a side note here, I love using barbell charts, which is what I've used here to represent these metrics. And it's one of my favorite chart types to use when I need to compare values. So I've used it here to show the difference between men and women across these 3 metrics. And the reason why I love barbell charts so much is because it's really a great way to show a lot of information all at once. So you can see where women and men fit along the scale, but you can also see the size of the gap between those 2 genders as well. So I thought, you know, it was a really great way to kind of show all of this information without overwhelming the audience with something, you know, more complex. And then now we move on to what I think is the highlight of this visualization, the women. So I mentioned earlier that the aim of this visualization was to showcase women and to share their stories. And the data collection for this was actually quite manual. So I had to go through a number of lists and a number of articles to come up with just 10 women scientists that I want to include. You know, I found so many scientists who kind of fit the bill here. And I did want to include them all, but I just didn't think that, you know, it wasn't feasible because this was such a manual process. I kind of narrowed it down to 10. So I found 10 women who were pivotal in major scientific discoveries, but they didn't get the recognition. The recognition often went to their male colleagues or their male peers, and in sometimes their spouse. So as I said, this data set was a manual collection of that research and of that data. So if we have a look at the data set here, you'll see that if I click on the link's not working. I'm trying to click on the data set, but it's not working. But you can see kind of like I've got, here we go. The nationality of the scientists, a short description of their achievements, so you can read up more about them, the link to the Wikipedia page, the name, occupation, and the years, the year that they were born. And then I've got this kind of XY point here. So I'll touch on that a little bit later as to why it's there and the significance of it as well. So you'll see that that was a manual process. I just had to kind of transpose all that information into a spreadsheet. So with all the data collected, let's move on to building the visualization. So things like the design and the layout and my choice of color. So the choice of color that I made was very deliberate. If you've seen any of my visualizations, you'll know that I tend to keep things simple. So simple charts, simple color schemes. And the reason why I do that is because I like to focus on the data and focus on the telling of a story. The story that I wanted to show here was shedding the light on the Matilda Effect and to honor the achievements of those women scientists. And I wanted the women to be the stars of this visualization. Now, up until this point, I had traditionally stuck to like long form vizzes where you kind of scroll vertically to kind of get the story and to go through the charts and the visualization. And this was the first and actually only horizontal visualization that I created. I was inspired by some of the horizontal layout vizzes that I'd seen at the time. So I think around that time, there was kind of a surge. I think that was kind of the trend at the moment, creating those horizontal vizzes. And I'd seen a lot of them come up. And so I was inspired by them. And one of the visualizations that kind of struck me and that kind of stayed with me was this visualization and if it loads, you'll be able to see, called Past Due, and it's by it's in collaboration. It's a collaboration viz by Nicole Clausen and Owana Tudorancia. And what they've done is they've looked at the impact of climate inaction, but it is a horizontal visualization. And as you scroll across the screen, it kind of takes you through this journey of answering some questions. What, why, how, when. But what I love about this is that you're able to kind of see each section in one go. So you can consume each section as you go, and it's all there kind of within that screen. You're not kind of having to scroll across to see the same part of that one section. So I really liked that that method and the way that the story was told in that way. So I wanted to experiment and create my own. So aside from knowing that I wanted to create this horizontal layout, I really had no idea when I started how this was going to turn out. So sometimes when I have a topic or an idea in mind or a data set that I want to visualize, I can kind of see in my head what form I want the visualization to take. And then I kind of draw it out with pen and paper because I'm old school and have that as a reference. But, for this visualization, that wasn't the case. I kind of got my data and then started playing around with it and then started playing around with different layout options. And I did have many iterations when I was building this visualization. First I started off with looking at the women here and then having the data after that. And then I kind of didn't like how things flowed then, and I was just kind of moving things around and copying and pasting things. And then I kind of eventually settled on this kind of flow where we talk about what the Matilda Effect is, and then talk about the Nobel Prize, and then the publications, and then we talk about the forgotten women scientists. And then what I've done is I've deliberately kind of alternated the background color of each of the sections so that I can clearly kind of delineate each section from the next. And again, similar to past due, each section kind of fits within the screen, and you look at that section, everything is kind of contained in that screen, and then you move on to the next. And next off, speaking of color, as you can see here, I've decided to go with kind of this simple monochromatic color scheme for the visualization, partly because I am a little bit lazy and I couldn't be bothered looking for more colors, but mostly because I wanted to keep things simple. And you know, what better way to kind of keep things simple and focus on the story is to use a simplified color palette. And why did I choose the color purple? So I didn't want to choose pink, which is, you know, what we tend to kind of use to represent women or girls, as I didn't want to enforce those gender stereotypes. And also purple is one of the colors of the women's suffrage movement. And you probably noticed in one of my earlier slides where I showed the visualization I did about the women's suffrage movement, purple and green, like they're the two colors. So the purple is a little bit brighter. And when I did try to use that purple in this visualization, it was a little bit too bright, and I didn't think it kind of went with the kind of tone that I wanted to set for this viz. So I used purple, but I kind of dialed it down a little bit. And you can see that, you know, throughout the visualization, there's that one color. And then when I go into kind of visualize the men versus the women, I've kind of kept the women that purple field color. So, you know, the field circle here, the field bar chart here, and then the men, they're kind of clear throughout the visualization as well. So, you know, I just kind of wanted to keep that consistent throughout the visualization. In many of my visualizations, I like to keep my images to a minimum. So unless I think the image will add something to the visualization, or you know, it is a key kind of storytelling device, I tend not to overdo it. So an example of that is in my IronViz final that I created. I decided to use the image of the torch here as the focal point of the viz. It's actually used as a storytelling device to kind of literally shine a light on the most important data point here. And, you know, the same is true for this visualization. So as we scroll across and we have a look at the drawing here, or the image here, again, I wanted to make these remarkable women the stars of my visualization, but I kind of had to think of a way to make them stand out. So I tried many things when I was producing this visualization. It's kind of embarrassing to show, and I'm not going to show it because I deleted all of them. But things like, you know, I tried like grids and unit charts and complex things that were, you know, too much going on. And I think, as I tend to do, I was overcomplicating things, and I didn't like any of it, and so I scrapped all of it. Now, I've got a question for everyone on the call. You can probably put this in the chat, but, you know, where does inspiration strike for you? Where do you get your inspiration from? For me, I found that inspiration always strikes when I'm doing the most ordinary or mundane thing. And this time I was making dinner, so stirring the spaghetti bolognese pasta sauce. And then I had this idea and this image pop into my head of beakers and test tubes, you know, science. And then, you know, when I think of science and like experiments and chemicals and all of that mixing together, creating bubbles. And so I thought I could represent the women as, you know, bubbles coming up from this test tube. And, you know, at the time when I was building this visualization, I had started in previous visualizations to experiment with hand-drawn images. I had run into this problem of not being able to find images that I like, so I started to draw my own. And I also thought that this kind of brought a bit of, you know, my own personality into the visualization as well. So the image of this test tube or this experiment, science experiment, was drawn on my iPad using Procreate, which I then brought into Tableau. And so this allowed me to draw the image exactly how I wanted it, all the flaws and all. And it kind of, matching the same kind of style and color scheme of the visualization as well. But now I had to plot the scientists within this image. So this is where I turned to an outside tool. I stumbled across this this drawing tool by Interworks. When actually, I don't know when I stumbled across it. It was before I started doing this visualization, but when I needed to find a way to plot those scientists, I remembered that I had stumbled across this, and it would be a really good tool to kind of use to help plot unconventional data points. So here you can see that you can create data points from an image, or you can use a map to draw coordinates or plot geographical areas. So in this case, we have an image that we want to create the data points for. And then what I will do is I'm going to bring in my image here so you can see it here. And then what you can do is you can kind of create data points just by plotting it. So maybe I want my bubbles to go up this way on one side and up this way on the other side. And what you can see here on the right is that now it's the tool is starting to generate some XY points, some data points for you. And then from there, what you can do is you can copy that information to the clipboard and then paste it straight into Tableau, or you can download the data. So what I did was I downloaded the data, and then I could append that to my women scientists data set. So what I showed you earlier, where we had the X and Y coordinates, I just appended the X and Y coordinates to that data set. So now I was able to plot the women scientists based on this data set. And I want to kind of, as an aside, let you in on kind of an embarrassing secret. So before I found this tool, I had wanted to create a polygon flower. So I created, this was probably done about 8 or so years ago. And I hand drew this flower and on a pen and paper, and then I drew some grid lines, and then I manually kind of worked out where the X and Y coordinates were for each of the polygons or the triangles, and then I transposed that into Excel. And that's not something I recommend you do. Use the tool instead. This took me way too long, and it was just a headache. But you live and you learn, right? So I found this tool, and then something like this, you can upload that, like your image into the tool, and then use the tool to kind of create those X and Y coordinates for you. So there you go. Okay, so moving on to the next section, let's talk about interaction. So this is Tableau after all, and what's Tableau without interactions? I wanted people to be able to interact with the visualization and with these women scientists as well. So I added a dashboard filter action to only show a scientist if they'd been selected in one of these diamonds. The interaction allows you to kind of take your time to get to know each woman, read the story, read about them, and if you want to click through to the Wikipedia page to learn more about them. And then once you've learned about one scientist, you can move on to the next scientist. So you can navigate as you see fit. You can interact as fast or as slow as you want. So I wanted to kind of allow people to kind of take their time to learn about these forgotten women scientists. And then lastly, there's a bit of information about how we can recognize women in some of these scientific disciplines and some organizations supporting these women in STEM. So as we draw to the end of my talk, that's the Matilda Effect, deceptively simple and evidence that you don't really need to create, the most complex chart in the world to get a visualization of the day. So my advice to you would be to kind of tell your story your own way. So you can get inspiration from other people, but put yourself into the visualization, the personality, and tell your own story your own way. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Thank you, Kimberly. The chat lit up. Once you get to the chat, you'll get to the fun part of all the conversations we had. You gave us some amazing trade secrets. I think I saw one question about why your color choice was the color choice, and you already spoke about it, about why you chose just simple color palette. So it's done. And for the question you asked, when do people get inspiration? We had some great answers. Sam says when she's putting away dishes. Eric said when he's listening to podcasts. For me, when I'm trying to fall asleep and my brain gives me a brilliant idea that I have to get up and put it into the Tableau Public because I'll forget it before in the morning. Having said all this, I have one quick question for you. And I see there's one more question. Priyanka wants to know when do you whiz? Are you like a night owl or an early bird? When it comes to whizzing?
Well, actually, it's in one of the questions that I'd asked in the Mums Who Viz visualization was, I think it's when do you viz? No, it could be something along the lines of where are you a night owl or a I don't remember. Are you a night owl or a
early bird?
Early bird, yeah. So for me, it's at nighttime. When after my kids have gone to bed, that's when I kind of have the time to do things. So I am a night owl. I often go to bed after midnight and up again at 6 or 7. But yeah, that's a time that I have to myself. I call it me time. My husband cannot distract me because it is me time. Sometimes I will visualize, I will, viz. Sometimes I'll read up on things and research things. Half the time I will be watching or binge watching something on either Netflix or Disney. I just finished the latest version of Only Murders in the Building. Highly recommend.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but nighttime. That's the time that I have to do these things.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing the CBI studio from Interworks, because apparently a lot of people in the chat said that it will save people time. And yeah, I was literally drawing grids and finding the plot points. That was my pencil and paper sort of a way of finding where the thing needs to fit. But this could be an amazing tool. One final question before I let you go. So you create these amazing vizzes, but one thing I've seen a lot of developers struggle with is to say that this is done. This can now go out in public. It's okay. Do you have those moments, or do you just build a viz and it's out there?
Yeah, so I struggle because I am a perfectionist, and I'm often this is really embarrassing. So when I publish a visualization and it, when you publish something on Tableau Public and then it just takes you to the screen where you've just published, like it takes you to your visualization on Tableau Public. And then I'll see like a box is like too much to the left or too much to the right. I'm like, I can't, I have to fix it. I can't leave it. I know it doesn't matter, but in my head, I know. So I go in and I just press the buttons to make it go across and across. But I've actually had to learn to kind of not do that, because, if you're looking at your visualization, there's always going to be some little thing like that you notice. So when it's published, unless it's glaringly obvious, like a typo or, a word that's spelt wrong, I think that, that's kind of where you need to kind of stop. You may get some feedback as to, that section doesn't make sense, or, you might look at trying to fix this, then you can expand on that. But I think you kind of need to take a step back, let your baby run, let them go out there and make their own mistakes, and just forget about it. I don't look at my business after I publish it because I hate it. And that's just kind of what you have to do.
There you go. No, that is a great advice. Yeah, and that is something that you can eventually learn, but it's okay. It's okay to leave it. It's you have done most of the work. Yes. So, okay. Thank you, Kimberly, so much. It was such a fun, it was so insightful. Again, thank you for joining us. Eric.
Yes.
Doing it back to you.
All right. Thank you. You need to learn to channel your inner Elsa. Just let it go. Let it go. All right. So next up is our swag drawing. So we've got the wheel of names here. Yeah, let's click this and we'll see who the winner is. Ray, so close. And congratulations on Visit of the Day, Ray. It's Rolly Singh. So Rolly, if you will email TableauPublicTUG@gmail.com, we have a $50 gift certificate that you can use at the Tableau store. And I will post that email in the chat here in a moment. So thank you, Rolly. And next up, we have Heather Cox and Priyanka. So if you two will take it away, we will go on with our next segment.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Eric. Looks like there's something with my camera, but let me check that later. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Kimberly. That was very educational. Not only that storytelling is spot on, but the whole visualization, the story, it's so good. So definitely going to check that out later. All right. So with that, I'm going to not take much of the time, and I know my camera seems to be foggy, so let's ignore that fact. But I'm going to just quickly introduce Heather. So Heather joined Tableau Public in 2023 and has since then become known for her creative and technically innovative visualizations. From her TableauVision Song Contest, which we'll cover today, featuring AI-generated songs about Tableau community, to visualization on speed cubbing and motorsport, her work is so diverse and innovative. And by 2024, this year itself, she was not only recognized as Tableau Public Featured Author, but also Tableau Public Ambassador, and also 3 Visit of the Day. So that seems like a very good year for you, Heather. She thrives on experimenting with new techniques, draws inspiration from this vibrant Tableau community. And I'm excited to see that all those tricks that she'll be using in her viz today. So that's enough from me. I'm sure everyone here is excited to see the viz and learn all those techniques that she's going to show us. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Heather. But Heather, before we go with technical and data and all those stuff, do you have a fun fact for us? Because I see you have a speed cubbing and a lot of things. So anything that you want to share?
So yeah, I have been into the speed cubing a little bit. So yeah, that's all a bit of fun, and there's a lot of motorsport business that go up there as well. So I've been into some of that, doing a bit of competition driving in the way back when. But yeah, at the moment I'm learning to unicycle. That's yeah, another strange thing that I'm working on at the moment as well. Hey, we've got you.
That's great. Yeah, finally.
All right, so I'll jump into it. So the TableauVision Song Contest, it started with my kids' school, to be honest. And so let me share my screen and we'll just, okay. And it started with Suno. So we have a dinner every year for the winter solstice at the school, where all of the staff, parents, the board, broader community get together without the children and just sort of celebrate what the school's achieved over the 12 months. And this event was coming up and I'd learned about Suno. And Suno generates songs using AI. And I generated a song for each staff member within the school. So there was 26 of them, and it created 26 songs. And look, the prompt is very simple. You simply come into Suno and you can write something like this: an emotional electro-pop song about a literal banana, and it will start writing that song, and you'll get 2 versions of the song to listen back to and choose which is your favourite one. So I created these songs about, all of our teachers and the reception staff and our groundskeeper, and it was all a bit of fun. And then I started thinking, hey, like Eurovision Song Contest kind of thing. This is a bit fun. Then I'm thinking, oh, well, I need a voting platform. So, of course, I pull out my weapon of choice, being Tableau, and start to work out how I can create a voting platform using Tableau. With some of my other vizzes, I've created a Vyvanse locator. It was for a medication shortage that was worldwide at the time. And so I had some familiarity with using Tableau to fill in a Google form, to actually sort of submit a Google form. So that was going to be my way of capturing votes, and put it all together, figured out how I was going to bring those results back in and display them, and it was all working really well. And I thought, this is fantastic. This is about the coolest thing I've ever done. It has all of the school details all over it. This is not something I can release publicly. So I had to sort of take a step back and think, how am I going to do this? It was about that time that in the APAC TUG, we've got a WhatsApp group, and one Friday night, Steve Wood just starts this riddle. Tell me what Tableau function I'm thinking of. Was giving us sort of these cryptic clues, and we had to guess. We had a great deal of fun with it, and that's where I started thinking, hey, I can make songs I can make new songs. I can make them about Tableau, and started feeding information about Tableau functions into Suno so it would generate the songs for me, and that's where we got to. So in creating all of those, there were some tricks, obviously, because sometimes Suno really didn't know how to pronounce Tableau. And so I'd have to feed the lyrics back in and very specifically write out T-A-B-L-O-W, Tableau, because otherwise it would say Tableau. And that was really sort of ruined the effect of the songs. So once we got, this idea that it was going to be, Tableau themed, then I had to think about how the data source was going to work. So in the first instance, I needed the information about the song. I needed the song's name, and I needed the link for the song so that I could pop it into this little web object. So the web object has the URL in here, and so it's just from the Suno website and the particular key that goes with the song plus the MP3 at the end. So each of the songs has a unique code, so I needed to have that in my data set. And then originally that was it. Over time, I ended up with the lyrics coming in as well, so that I could have my little lyrics viewer come up here, and then I've got we can navigate through and have a look at a whole bunch of lyrics for different songs. So the big part about this first data source was really about being able to get the data back out again, because it needed to sort of go into this Google form. So what happens within this first data source is each of the songs are listed here, and we've got these buttons. We can play the music, so I can we can just start playing it. You should be able to hear it. So it starts playing there, or I can add it to my shortlist. and I can start adding each of the songs to the shortlist. Now, the beauty of that original inspiration with the viz for the school, there being 26 teachers or 26 staff, was that there were 26 letters in the alphabet, and so this is how I'm controlling the shortlist. Each song has one letter associated with it, and my shortlist order is just a parameter that has that stores the letters that I'm passing to it as I add them to the shortlist, which means that when I decide that I want to move things around, it's just moving the characters around within the parameter. And so I can use a bunch of parameter actions to be able to do that. But once I add 10 songs to my playlist or my shortlist and get them in the order that I want them, the Vote Now button, which is currently not available until we add enough songs, is now available. So you can keep adding songs, and they get grayed out down here so that you can't actually see what's going on, so that you realise that they're not ones that are going to be submitted. But once you try and hit add the 13th, it got a little bit cheeky, and we'll tell you that it's called shortlist for a reason. So once you've done that, and you've got your shortlist order here, there's a calculation associated with this button, and I can click the Vote Now button, and then this is where it will open up that Google form in this other web object, and that's what we needed to have to be able to submit it. Putting the parameter and the web object just off to the side of the viz within the Tableau desktop app allows me to be able to see what's going on, but it doesn't actually appear for the user. So I need to have the web object happen, or else the submission of the form doesn't go through. But at the same time, for a seamless user experience, we want to take it off the screen. So that's effectively it as far as the data itself. Sending out, then we've got the data that's coming back in. So obviously with our Google form, it will tabulate all the results and send it back to us as a Google sheet. So we can see all of our responses coming in here, and then in Sheets we can see that, you know, here's all of our votes coming in and the points associated with them. So when we hit our parameter, there's a calculation in the back end that is assigning points based on where the letter appeared in the string, and then those come through to us so that we can see, what our scores should be. So then that's connected back to our viz, and so because everything's in Google Sheets and on the Google Drive, I'm able to use the Tableau Public feature of syncing. Every day, so every 24 hours, it will sync back with the Google Sheets and bring those results in. The trick to that one is make sure that if you have one of your data sources on Google Drive, all of your data sources are on Google Drive, or else the refresh will not work. I can save you days of testing if you just take that one on advisement. So we get the data to come back in here and we start to map it. I have joined it to the radial heat map that Wilson put together, and it was good. It did what I needed it to do, but I did get rather frustrated with it when I first put it together, because it started in the wrong place as far as I was concerned. I thought that it really should have started, from the top and then gone clockwise. But it didn't. It started at 90 degrees and went anti-clockwise. And for the longest time, I was trying to figure out what was going on, and then I eventually got to. And if we have a look at my the relationship that I've created between the two, this is to correct for the fact that it was starting in the wrong place and going in the wrong direction. So all of my letters, each letter is, as we were talking before, representing each song. And this married everything back up again. And so this is where I can, speak to the evils of being past one's bedtime, because the problem was that I simply had the X and Y around the wrong way on the column and row shelves, and if I had simply over, I would have saved myself quite a bit of time and heartache, but we live and learn. So with creating the the story design for this particular viz, there's not a great deal, I guess, of sort of story. It's not so much telling the story as sort of guiding you through that experience of listening to the music and then seeing what those results are. But it had a very specific purpose in that very first instance. It was going to be used for people attending this dinner to vote on the songs. We were going to be playing them at the venue. Was interact with this to vote. We're going to keep voting open for a little while, have that opportunity. So I knew that people were going to be accessing it via QR code on their phones. So I made in the very first instance what they could see was going to be explaining what it was, and in a relatively aesthetically pleasing sense, giving them some understanding about what the buttons did and what was going to be expected of them. So if you press this, you'll listen to the songs. If you press that, you can shortlist them. You press these buttons, you'll be able to reorder everything, and then you can cast your vote. And then the text got a little bit wider to encourage people to turn the phone over, and then they would be able to view everything here. I wanted to do it that way rather than using a mobile layout, because having used the mobile layouts with the Vyvanse locator, there are good use cases for that, but I didn't think this was one. It sort of starts to be sort of creating almost an entirely separate viz, which isn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to have that same experience across different devices. And so, yeah, then we sort of come down here and start to have a look at our results. Yeah, I did have this idea about being able to randomize the song that came up when it started, and that was really hard. The random function, as most of you would know, is not documented. And I've discovered that there's a lot of difficulty actually getting it to regenerate a random number within the same session. And so you'd have to actually refresh the viz in order to get something else to be generated. And that, of course, will clear out shortlist and all these kinds of things. So wasn't the way that I wanted to go, but I did figure out a way of doing it after, of course, I had finished here. So yes, if you check out on my Tableau Public profile, there is a viz there called The Mysteries of Random. I found a way to do it. I hope you find that entertaining. So yeah, we moved sort of through all of this and ended up with something that was, I guess the big thing here though is that interactivity. Obviously that ability to vote was huge. But one of the other things, because I've got so many buttons appearing in here, was making sure that we didn't end up with that situation, as you saw with Kimberly's viz, where if she was, sort of clicking into her plotted bubbles, the others would fade out. And with the buttons, I didn't want that to happen, because one of the other things that can happen when they fade out is that you need to click twice in order to then click the next button. And so that's from a user experience point of view was not what I was after. So I used a trick that Kevin Wee demonstrated as part of his talk at TC this year, which is to add to the sheet apples and oranges, and it's very simple. It's just text that says apples. So it means that when we have a look at the dashboard actions, which, I mean, the dashboard actions in this thing drives everything. There's over 30 of them, but we can see this highlight deactivation. And so what it does is it says, you know, if you select this sheet, on this sheet, select things where apples is equal to oranges. Well, apples is never equal to oranges. That's kind of the point. And so as a result, it can't select anything. So it deselects, and we end up with that near seamless interactivity between the buttons, and we can keep clicking to our heart's content. So the recreating that Eurovision Song Contest voting experience was a bit of a trick, because well, I'd never actually voted in the Eurovision Song Contest, so I sort of downloaded their app, but of course it was after Eurovision had actually closed, so it wasn't actually taking votes, so it was not particularly helpful, but you know, I got a bit of a sense of what was going on. And so that's where the scoring kind of came from. It was inspired by that. I have no idea if anyone's voted in Eurovision. Please let me know how close I got to being like the original experience. Yes, the idea was that it wasn't just like what's the top is going to be. Give us a short list. Tell us all the songs that you enjoyed and which ones you enjoyed more than others, so that we could get a real sense of how that worked out. And so we can see by looking at the heat map that dynamic zone visibility seems to be, you know, a big favourite. It's got the most votes in position #1, so it's #1 on most people's shortlists, and the one on most people's shortlists is the tool that can't be named, which I think is a bit of a guilty pleasure, really, because yes, we know what the tool that can't be named is, but it's all good fun. It's all meant to be sort of in jest. We're having a bit of fun. There's another one on here that's a bit of a favourite, is the XL Blues, which is coming in at #2. And I know that there's a Tableau partner event in New Zealand recently on the importance of requirements gathering and making sure that, you know, you were providing your users with what it was that they actually needed. And yes, so Ludo did break out XL Blues for the attendance of that event, because it's about people, it's about when you publish a dashboard in a business environment and the users just export the data to Excel and don't look at your visualization. So that can be a heartbreaking moment. So of course it needed to be a country and blues song. So I've really enjoyed getting a lot of feedback about the different songs and what they mean to people and which ones people like. So it's been really, really fun to hear from people, but also to see the votes coming in and what people have enjoyed. So yeah, I encourage everybody in the coming hours or weeks or whatever to log on and have a listen if you haven't already, and submit a vote so that we can see how the songs are going. Embedding the player into the viz is an idea that came up or came out of a presentation that I saw at Visit in Sydney last year, and Kieran Adair was showing how to put into a viz. So that was a bit of the inspiration for that. And yeah, graphics, much of what's there I've been working with Inkscape, which is kind of like Illustrator, like Adobe Illustrator, but the open source version. And yeah, let's just say I learned a lot about in the last 8 months or so. Yeah, so community engagement sort of informed a lot of the decisions about how things were going to work, whether it was sort of that school community or whether it was our, Tableau Public community. So one of what I would like to do for you all today, and I'm going to need to just double check that you're all hearing this. So, thumbs up is good, but this is the song Data Warriors, which is about Tableau Public and our Tableau Public community.
Got the data in my hands, looking at the world. Lines and charts and maps got stories unfurled. Metrics and dimensions, yeah, it's all so clear. Visualizing lives that are the same all year. Morning light breaks, the dashboard shines bright, sharing with the data, and we're flying high tonight. Filters and fields, we're a team so tight. Building something bigger, yeah, it feels so right. Tableau Public, where our dreams unite. In the data storm together, we ignite. Shots and colors bringing truth to the light. With data warriors in the dark of night. Holding my fist to the public domain, instantly share data, ties on chain. Insights flowing fast, never looking back. Communities, wisdom sets us on the right track. With every click and drag, we're bridge building time. Each Tableau story written feels like a rhyme. Painted pictures made of numbers, raw and true. Together we'll explore like we always do. Tableau Public dreams unite. In the data storm together we ignite. Shots and colors bringing truth to the light. We're data warriors in the dark of night. Instantly shared data, ties unchained. Insights flowing fast, never looking back. Communities, wisdom sets us on the right track. With every click and drag, we're bridge building time. Each Tableau story written feels like a rhyme. Painting pictures made of numbers, raw and true. Together we'll explore like we always do. Tableau Public, where our dreams unite. In the data storm together we ignite. Thoughts and colors bringing truth to the light. With data warriors in the dark of night. With data warriors in the dark of night. Got the data in my hands, looking at the world. Instantly check data, ties unchained. Insights flowing fast, never looking back. Communities, wisdom sets us on the right track.
So yeah, that's it. It's one of those things, I think, where the songs are far too good for us to really believe that it's all AI. yes, are there any?
Yeah, I think everyone is so excited about the songs. I see a lot of messages on the songs for the karaoke and Tableau conference. So you're right, it does sound like it's a real song. Okay, I think the one question I see here is from Preeti, who wants to know what is your favorite song among the 26 you have.
Look, I have always been really happy with the way that dynamic zone visibility song came out. It's one of my favorite features, and yeah, it has to be my favorite song.
Yeah, that's my favorite feature too. So yeah, I think just by the name, I loved the one that was, I think this should have been a bar chart. Just by the name, that's so funny because I could relate to that for the business dashboards. I was like, yeah, this could have been a bar chart. Okay, and I see also one more message from Eric, who wants to know if you have that link to the blog that had an apple and orange trick, because that was really great.
So it was part of Kevin's talk at TC.
Okay.
So yes, I watched the video a lot of times to just follow through what he'd done, but I did do a rundown of some of the features within the this particular viz for the Flurridge Twins blog, and they did find a link to throw on the on that. Yes, you should be able to find a bit of an explanation there.
Okay, that is great. I see Preeti mentioned Salesforce Plus. Yes, I think you could find that on Salesforce Plus. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, thanks, Preeti, for the link now. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I am completely blown away by the presentation. And what I love the most about the whole thing is the design, of course, is great. The whole idea is great. But you thought of everything from the experience point of thing. You have a pop-up when it's more than 10. You see it grayed out. There's a lyrics kind of pop up. So I think he's thought of everything. It's actually like a website. Doesn't look like a viz in a first glance. So that
was sort of the thing. I think I'd built on what I'd been doing with the 5-ounce locator. There was a lot of app-like interactivity in that one, and so I just learnt from there and built out.
That's great.
Well, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
A little bit more of a wrap up here. We appreciate you joining us today. Next month, we're hosting a holiday-themed event. It will be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S. Tableau visionary Annabelle Rincon and Tableau Public Ambassador Jennifer Dawes will join us to show their holiday-themed Biz of the Days. And Tableau Public featured author Shangroff Rain will be our community spotlight author. He works at Nike, so I'm really looking forward to hear his story. RSVP will be posted in the chat, and join us and whatever time zone you're in. And remember, if you want a viz of the day, build a viz that is timely or topical, highlights new features, spotlights the diverse Tableau community, includes a novel chart type or Tableau trick, communicates a key insider story, and as you've seen today, make it visibly stunning. If you create a viz like that, publish it to Tableau Public. We'll have you on one of our future episodes of the Tableau Public TUG. Thanks everybody for joining us today, and hope to see everyone next month. If you've enjoyed this, please tell your friends and coworkers and have them RSVP too. So let me stop. There we go. Thanks. And there's the link to next month's event. Awesome. So
Cool. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Sam.
yeah, thanks, Sam. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much for the APAC friendly event. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We love a good time.
It wasn't
We
so
will
bad.
shortly upload it to YouTube, so hopefully we get to share